So Israel just bombed the heart of Damascus again. Not some weapons depot in the desert. No, this was a broad daylight strike on the Defense Ministry military headquarters and the area right next to the presidential palace, right in the symbolic and sovereign core of Syria's capital. And the excuse that it's all for the protection of Syria's Druze minority. Please. This is the same Israel that's murdered over 60,000 Palestinians in Gaza, mostly women and children, and injured over 130,000 more, that's flattened nearly 80% of Gaza's buildings, that's turned starvation into strategy and Gaza into the world's largest open-air concentration camp, a state that does this, that slaughters in Gaza, that enforces apartheid in the West Bank, that discriminates even against its own Palestinian citizens under the basic law, has absolutely no business pretending it's suddenly a champion of minority rights. And certainly not in Syria. The Druze there are Arab, Syrian, part of the nation. They've never needed protection from Israel, and they know better than to accept it. Let's talk about where Israel hit. Not Suwaida, not the mountains, but Umayyad Square, the very soul of Damascus, a place heavy with history and pride, named after the Umayyads, the first great Islamic empire, whose capital was here, not in Riyadh or Cairo, but Damascus, a city that ruled from the Pyrenees to the borders of China. Just 8 months ago, Syrians gathered in that very square to celebrate the fall of dictatorship, and now that square is in ruins, targeted in broad daylight on live TV, with most Arab and international networks based right nearby. This wasn't a military strike, it was a message, a warning, a humiliation. Israel's defense minister even posted the clip of a young Syrian presenter abandoning her seat mid-broadcast as explosions lit up the skyline behind her. That wasn't an accident, that was the point. So let's be very clear, this wasn't about the Druze. This was about doctrine, a very old Israeli doctrine, one that's been unfolding quietly, then loudly, for decades. It's called the Periphery Doctrine, first dreamed up by David Ben-Gurion, Israel's founding father, and Eliyahu Sassoon in the early days of the state. The idea was simple. If Israel couldn't be accepted by the Arab world, it would encircle it with non-Arab allies like Turkey, Iran, and Ethiopia, and weaken it from within. How? By supporting ethnic minorities, exploiting divisions, turning neighbor against neighbor, fragmenting the region so Israel could dominate it. Ben-Gurion wasn't subtle about it. He told his generals, and I quote, "Our aim is to smash Lebanon, Transjordan and Syria, then we bomb and move on and take Port Said, Alexandria and Sinai." He also said, "There is no such thing in history as a final arrangement, not with regard to the regime, not with regard to borders, not with regard to international agreements. The boundaries of Zionist aspirations are the concerns of the Jewish people, and no external factor will be able to limit them. This isn't ancient history, it's the foundation of current Israeli strategy." Since Assad fell, Israel has bombed Syria more times than in all previous decades combined. It's hit military infrastructure, strategic mountains, and deepened its occupation of Syrian land. And the rhetoric today is just as unfiltered. Gideon Saar, Israel's foreign minister, declared that a unified Syria is unrealistic. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich said the quiet part out loud. The fighting won't end until hundreds of thousands of Gazans leave and Syria is partitioned. And Rami Samani, an Israeli military lecturer, spelled it out. Syria is an artificial state. Israel must cause it to disappear. They're not hiding it, they're advertising it. And as the politics of the region shifted, as Egypt made peace, Iran flipped sides after the revolution, and Turkey moved closer to the Palestinians, Israel's doctrine didn't disappear. It evolved. It found new targets: Lebanon, Iraq, Sudan. But Syria remains central. Why? Because Syria borders Palestine. Because Syrians see Palestine as part of Bilad al-Sham, not charity but kin. And because, put simply, Israel is occupying Syrian land. That's why Israel has spent the last decade grooming Kurdish and Druze factions, not out of love but out of strategy. These are the pressure points it plans to push when the time comes to break Syria apart. But now Israel isn't stopping at Arab states. Its ambitions stretch further into Iran and even Pakistan. During the war on Iran, Israeli-aligned outlets openly called for the country to be partitioned. A think tank argued Iran's ethnic diversity is a vulnerability, and Israeli voices are now talking out loud about redrawing the map from Morocco to Pakistan. Enter the Abraham Accords, billed as peace but functioning more like protectorate agreements. Israel doesn't offer defense, it demands tribute. Smotrich now openly talks about a new regional order with Israel at the center, not as a partner but as an overlord. He says Arab states need to pay for the protection Israel provides against Iran and Hamas. Israel brings the bombs and they bring their gratitude in dollars. Trump's Middle East envoy Stephen Witkoff dressed it up in business language. He said if all these countries work together under Israel's leadership, it could be bigger than Europe. Everyone's a business guy, he said. AI, robotics, blockchain, the buzzwords were all there. But this isn't tech collaboration, it's economic annexation, a plan to turn Israel into the regional hub of trade, security and power, and turn its neighbors into dependents. This isn't diplomacy, this is feudalism in a three-piece suit. And here's where the fantasy begins to crumble, because for all its firepower, Israel is now overreaching. The more it expands, the more enemies it creates. The periphery it once courted, Iran, Turkey, Pakistan, now views it not as a regional actor, but a regional threat, a destabilizing force, a colonial problem. And across the Arab world, from Gaza to Damascus to Sana'a, its wars are knitting together a sense of shared defiance. What Israel sees as fragmentation may well become its undoing. It's not just anger that's rising, it's clarity, a growing understanding that the enemy isn't a sect, a party, a government, it's the doctrine of domination itself. From Gaza to Damascus, from Tehran to Beirut, people are watching and they're no longer confused. They see the pattern. They know this isn't about defense, it's about domination. What's under attack is not just land or regimes, it's identity, it's sovereignty, it's the right to live with dignity. Israel may have a doctrine, but this region has a memory, it has a history, one that is deep, defiant and unforgiving to occupiers.